Hello and welcome. I'm a hotel AI expert, and I'm really pleased to welcome all of you, the students of Europe Hotel School, to your online learning journey. Today, we're diving into a topic that's absolutely crucial in our industry: mastering those difficult guest calls. It's not just about solving a problem, it's about turning a challenge into a real win for you and for the guest. It's so easy to dread these calls, right? To see them as just a problem. But what if we started looking at them differently? A difficult call is actually an invitation. It's a rare opportunity to show a guest what your service is really all about and transform a moment of frustration into genuine, lasting loyalty. So, where do we begin? Well, before you even think about what to say, the most important work happens right inside your own head: your mindset. It's the foundation for everything. If you can get that right, the rest of the process will just fall into place. Okay, first things first, you have to build a kind of mental shield. You need to remember that a guest's frustration is almost never about you. I mean, think about it. They might have had a missed flight, a mix-up with their booking, or they're just having a terrible day. Their anger is really the result of something else entirely. Your job isn't to take the hit, but to focus on the issue, not the emotion. This brings us to a really critical choice you have in every single one of these interactions. You can either react or you can respond. Now, reacting is pure instinct. You get defensive, you start to argue, you match their energy. It's like throwing gasoline on a fire. But responding? That's a strategy. It's about consciously bringing calm, focus, and empathy to the situation. And that's what puts you back in control. All right, with that mindset as our foundation, let's get tactical. What do you actually do in the moment you pick up that phone? This part is all about de-escalation and truly mastering the art of listening. These 4 steps are your playbook, and they work in a very specific sequence. It all starts with your own calm. Your tone of voice literally sets the temperature for the whole call. Next, and this is key, you acknowledge their feelings, not the facts. A simple, "I can hear how frustrating this must be for you," can work wonders. Then, and only then, do you just listen without jumping in. Finally, you repeat the issue back to them to show you understood perfectly. And let's be really clear about this: validating a guest's feelings is not the same as admitting fault. You're not saying, "You're right, we messed up." You're just saying, "I hear you and I understand." It's a simple act of empathy that shows them you're not an enemy, you're an ally. And that shift, it changes everything. So once the emotional heat of the moment has gone down and the guest genuinely feels like you've heard them, it's time to pivot. This is where you shift from just listening to actively leading the conversation toward a solution. This is that turning point in the call. You've just earned a moment of trust. So what do you do with it? This is where you make the transition from absorbing their frustration to actively fixing their problem. And in doing that, you start to rebuild their confidence in you and your hotel. Now, when it's time to actually propose a solution, don't rush it. Make sure you fully understand the problem. Then you can calmly and clearly lay out the options that are available. Be totally transparent about what's going to happen next. But you know the most powerful thing you can do? Take ownership. Using a phrase like, "I'm sorry we made an error here," can build so much trust. It stops the blame game and gets everyone focused on the fix. But what happens when a call really goes off the rails? Some situations need more than just good listening skills. This is what I call the advanced playbook: knowing when you need to set firm boundaries and knowing when it's time to escalate. This is so important to remember. Being professional does not mean you have to be a punching bag. If a caller ever becomes verbally abusive, you have both the right and, frankly, the responsibility to set a boundary. A calm but firm statement like, "Sir, I truly want to help you, but I cannot continue the conversation if you use that kind of language." That isn't being confrontational. That's just maintaining respect. We really need to change how we think about the word escalation. It's not a white flag you wave when you've failed. Think of it more like a strategic move. It's passing the ball to the person on your team who is in the best position to solve the problem. Knowing when to escalate isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of competence. It shows you're committed to getting the guest the best possible result. And here's how you make that handoff seamless. When you do escalate a call, you give your manager a quick, concise summary of the situation. Why is this so important? Because there is almost nothing more frustrating for an upset guest than having to tell their whole story all over again. A smooth transfer shows you respect their time and that you're all working as one team. So after all this effort, what's the real payoff? Why do we lean into these really tough conversations? Well, it's because a perfectly handled complaint can do more than just fix a one-time issue. It can actually create a stronger, more loyal bond with a guest than a perfectly smooth experience ever could. And remember, the call isn't truly over when you hang up the phone. The follow-up is absolutely everything. If you promise a guest you'll call them back with an update, making that call is the final step. It's how you prove you're reliable, and it's one of the most powerful ways to rebuild trust. You know, every single one of these skills we've talked about, staying calm, taking ownership, setting boundaries, following up, it all boils down to one word: reliability. And in the hospitality business, reliability is everything. It tells the guests that you're competent, that you care, and most importantly, that they can trust you. So I'll leave you with this thought. The next time you get a difficult call, don't see it as a problem. See it as a test. It's your chance to put these skills into practice, to demonstrate your professionalism, and to turn a moment of friction into a real opportunity. So, how will you handle it?